You're listening to Red Pill 78. I am the corruption detector, and this is your Red Pill News. Hope everyone's having a lovely day. We're going to get right into it. First of all, today we've got some incredible new memes that have just hit the interwebs, and we're going to take a look at that. We're also going to be talking about the Democratic debate on climate change that took place last night. Some weird happenings there. Also, Devin Nunes has brought a case against Fusion GPS for racketeering and more. Also, Tucker Carlson speaking about the possibility of blackmail material when it relates to the certain deceased financier named Jeffrey. Also, Jussie Smollett's attorneys are speaking out against the way that police investigated the case, and that should actually be it for the day. So if everyone could sit back, relax, grab some popcorn, we'll be right back with those memes. Imagine if you had received a personal invitation to invest $50 in Uber when it was a startup. On IPO day, you could have made $248,250. That same $50 invested in Amazon before it IPO'd could have made you over $7 million. Mike Markula was Apple's first angel investor, and on IPO day, his windfall was already up by 220,552%. But that's when Apple was only worth $1.8 billion. Think about how much Markula's net worth grew as Apple blazed a path to becoming the first $1 trillion company in U.S. history. And without him, iPhones, Apple Watches, iPads, and other devices we use in our daily lives may have never been invented. Look at these surprising returns from these popular startup companies. Some earning 583,264% revenue surges. What would you rather be? The angel investor or the IPO investor? The choice is clear as day. How would you feel if you could lock in a ground floor opportunity in the hottest startups this year that everybody's fighting over? Fortunately, Shark Tank's Robert Herjavec and his team of ultra-successful angel investors are here to help deliver angel deals with life-changing upsides delivered to you on a silver platter. Watch the free video at www.getangelrich.com or click the link in the description to see how you can participate in these potentially lucrative deals before the mainstream even finds out about them. Once again, that's www.getangelrich.com. All right, here we have my good friend and fellow researcher, Methods. He has put together a collection of some of the most incredible Tom Fitton memes. As you can see here, my good friend and fellow researcher Methods has put together some of the absolutely best Tom Fitton memes. Here we see, when Chuck Norris dreams, it's exclusively about Tom Fitton. Tom Fitton doesn't blow out candles, they extinguish themselves for him. Tom Fitton doesn't wear a watch, he decides what time it is. That's right, Tom Fitton is on the case. Look at that Pepe with Tom Fitton inside. And it goes on and on, guys. I encourage you to go check these memes out and share them far and wide. Tom Fitton is the only weapon allowed through airport security. Look at those guns. Tom Fitton doesn't read books, he stares them down until he gets the information he needs. All right. When Tom Fitton enters a courtroom, the judge stands up. They once made a Tom Fitton brand toilet paper, but it wouldn't take SHIT from anyone. Check these out, guys. These are hilarious. Tom Fitton is doing the work with Judicial Watch that many other people and groups in the United States are not willing to do. And it looks like we've got enough Tom Fitton memes here to fill up a calendar and more. So let's now move on to the first story about Joe Biden and the Democratic debate last night. All right, Joe Biden mysteriously suffered a weird bloody eye during the CNN climate change town hall last night. What is wrong with Joe Biden? The 2020 Democrat hopeful, 76, participated in a CNN climate town hall discussion Wednesday evening when people noticed something was wrong with his left eye. Biden's left eye filled up with blood. Biden has suffered many different health issues over the years, including an aneurysm that burst, which required surgery. Just a few months later, Joe Biden had a second aneurysm clipped before it burst, and as Washington Examiner points out, Biden has not publicly disclosed a medical report on his health since 2008. Let's go ahead and take a look at this video, and we'll be right back.
Next election. Daniel, welcome.
China is currently the largest emitter of CO2. How, if at all, would you try to get China to lower its emissions as president?
I would make it real clear. That's why we have to bring around the rest of the world. We have to reconfigure what's going on. When we did the Paris Accord that they signed on to, it was agreed that we would constantly up the ante the nations would agree to, contingent upon what the science dictated and the extent of the problem. We have to up the ante, what's going on. Number one. Number two, any nation that doesn't do that, for example, what China is doing, they're exporting coal technology. They're building coal plants on their Belt and Road area. They're moving in a way that they're in fact making the environment much, much worse. They, in fact, have increased, I think, 4.5%. They have increased the emissions from China. And so there has to be a price that they pay if they do that. And that's why I would talk about dealing with how we deal with them in terms of tariffs relating to their products that are being sold, if in fact they are involved in continuing to export this climate.
Okay, guys, that is very strange. I'm very worried about Joe Biden's health. You could clearly see his eye filling up with blood during that question. Now, here is a closer look at the eye. Let's take a look at that.
The things we need to do, when they have to be done, how quickly we should move, how much we should invest.
What is going on?
It's based on science. And look, I just look at all the organizations that many of you belong to, how they've rated my plan. On balance, it's been B+ or beyond that by every one of these organizations.
Very strange.
The idea that, and you're shaking your head, no, but that's true. The fact of the matter is that where are we?
For you and your thinking,
This does not look good for Joe Biden. Here are some more screenshots from Benny. This is early on when it was just starting to fill up with blood. Right there. Looks like Joe Biden is not in good health. So, guys, what do you think about Joe Biden's bloody eye? I think that it's probably a good idea for him to release a health document showing, what he is doing and how his health is going. Very, very disconcerting to think that yet again the Democrats are putting forward another candidate which is in very, very poor health. Much like Hillary Clinton was in 2016, I think that there is much more going on with Joe Biden than they are willing to let on. People are starting to talk about early onset Alzheimer's. People are starting to talk about the fact that he is losing his mental faculties. Ask yourself, is this the type of person that you want in the White House? Then you look at President Trump. President Trump is just looking better and better every single day. Probably the first president in the history of the United States who has not immediately aged 10 years. President Trump, I don't think you're going anywhere. All right, next, this is a wonderful story from Devin Nunes, first brought to my attention by my good friend and fellow researcher Methods. He says, we have got to go to the courts. Representative Devin Nunes files $9.9 million racketeering charges against Fusion GPS. Good stuff. Representative Devin Nunes, the former chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, filed racketeering charges this week against Fusion GPS. Fusion GPS, notorious for its fraudulent hit pieces, worked with the Campaign for Accountability to target Representative Nunes, who was investigating the FBI and DOJ's attempted coup of President Donald Trump. The Campaign for Accountability used Fusion GPS's research to target Nunes and slow his investigations into government corruption. Now, the Washington Examiner has reported Congressman Nunes filed a federal lawsuit Wednesday against opposition research firm Fusion GPS, its founder Glenn Simpson, and the left-leaning watchdog group Campaign for Accountability, accusing them of racketeering and interfering with his congressional Trump-Russia investigation. Nunes, chairman of the House Intelligence Committee until Democrats won the majority in 2018, claimed that Simpson, Fusion GPS, and the Campaign for Accountability illegally conspired to harass him in an attempt to hinder, delay, prevent, or dissuade him from looking into issues surrounding the federal investigation into the Trump campaign and the Russian government, and to scare him off from investigating possible wrongdoing by Simpson and Fusion GPS. The California Republican is asking the judge to award him $9.9 million in damages. The 35-page complaint from Nunes filed in the Eastern District of Virginia today pointed to a Daily Caller article from August that revealed the Campaign for Accountability hired Fusion GPS as an independent contractor in 2018 and paid the firm close to $140,000 for research. And the Nunes lawsuit alleged the watchdog group and the opposition research firm then colluded to target him and stymie his efforts, pointing to 3 ethics complaints filed by the Campaign for Accountability, allegedly in concert with Fusion GPS in an effort to chill reporting of Fusion GPS and Simpson's wrongdoing and to dissuade Nunes from making criminal referrals to the Justice Department. Now, clearly, Fusion GPS was working in concert with these organizations and also in concert with the DNC, and we know Hillary Clinton, Perkins Coie, a whole bunch of different people had an interest in stopping Devin Nunes and his team from investigating exactly what took place during the 2016 election. I cannot wait to see how this case pans out. I think Devin Nunes is doing the right thing. It looks like this is the only way that we're going to get any justice when it comes to certain aspects of this case. Hopefully, the DOJ is going to go ahead and pick this up and they will take the ball, because we know that these people acted in very illegal ways and they hindered the investigation of probably one of the most important things that has ever happened in our country. We have seen firsthand the dirty tricks of the DNC in concert with the former occupant of the White House, trying to do anything they can to stymie this investigation, in addition to stopping President Trump from even taking office. Devin Nunes is speaking out on this, and we're going to take a look at some video from that right now.
Tonight, a multi-million-dollar federal racketeering lawsuit against Fusion GPS. The congressman, along with Fox News contributor Sarah Carter, join me now with more. Congressman, let's talk about this. That we now know that, or you're accusing them of literally working with the Campaign for Accountability to derail your investigation. And secondly, other issues. Tell us about it.
Well, thanks, Sean. And you've done a great job covering this over the last 2.5 years. As many people know, I was often smeared. And now what we know is there's a link between those who were doing the smearing and Fusion GPS. Fusion GPS has a long career in this. They have a long record of this. Remember, they worked for the Russian government or oligarchs of the Russian government to smear an American named Bill Browder. Most people know about the Steele dossier and working to smear the Trump campaign. When we were investigating Fusion GPS, they were actively involved in working to smear me, to obstruct justice, to derail our investigation. And so, I'm going to hold these guys accountable, and this is just one of many steps that we continue to take, because we have to go to the courts. Just like Jay Sekulow was saying, we have to go to the courts. It's our third branch of government. We're going to have to rely on them to fix a lot of this mess.
What do you think when Special Counsel Mueller didn't know who...
Well, there you have it, folks. Fusion GPS working to smear anyone trying to investigate exactly what took place during the 2016 election. Fusion GPS has got so much power in Washington, especially when they've got the full weight of the Democratic Party and former presidents. All right, before we get into the story with Tucker and Judge Jeanine about the blackmail material, I wanted to bring to your attention some incredible information from my friend Luke Slytalker. He's the guy that we've had on the show before talking about steganography and the things that he's discovered in terms of that and how it relates to this investigation. Well, he says, we'll just get to the meat and potatoes. I found a thing happening currently. Embedded PGP encryption keys. Now, they are inside Jeffrey E. photos uploaded by the New York Post. So, he says, I've been sitting on this for a little bit, but when I saw that Jean-Luc Brunel has disappeared now as well, I guess it's time to release this. By the way, was the New York Post the first to break this about Brunel? Sounds like it. That's the first place I saw it. So here's the backstory. I ran some stego scans on the Ghislaine Maxwell photos from the New York Post article about her being spotted in an In-N-Out burger. There was some odd hex seemingly embedded into the file. I'm not used to seeing this, so I looked for other instances I could remember. This side-by-side scan that I ran on the Maxwell pic, which I just pulled off the New York Post CMS content management system. The image on the right is half a picture from the unsolved Cicada 3301 Liber Primus puzzle of 2014. You can see a similar set of hex embedded into the Cicada image. So That's all this information right here. A little bit ago, CS The Truth said I should check out the pics of Jeffrey in the orange-colored jumpsuit after his suicide. I found that the New York Post hosts their content directly on a WordPress subdomain, and their domain points there. I scraped all of the images I could find with the Jeffrey E. wildcard and got a dozen pics. One thing stood out was that multiple copies of the same image existed. This is unnecessary and a waste of space. WordPress can auto-scale, crop, etc., so multiple versions would be redundant. Normally, if you've got a website and you've got it hosted on a system like this, you only need one of those pictures, because every time you want to place that into a web page, you just link back to that original picture. Having multiple copies of the same picture, totally unnecessary. This is coming from somebody who used to develop web pages, especially on WordPress. Usually, multiple images would make sense when you have maybe a high-res and a thumbnail version, but the smallest of the files was over 500 kilobytes, definitely not a small JPEG. Even stranger, the other two images were big, 1.6 megabytes and 1.8 megabytes. That didn't make sense. So I scanned those pics first. The content of there being 3 duplicate images was bugging me. To my surprise, not only did all 3 of them have a bit of fishiness to them, same hex and stuff in the EXIF, but one of the files seemed to have a PGP key embedded using outguess. Again, I mentioned earlier, outguess being used in the In-N-Out Burger made outguess the first tool that I wanted to run. If you're a follower of the boards, you probably know there are numerous instances of steganography being used. Here's some possible appended data on a post from our favorite Anon. So, taking a look at this, here is a image that's embedded in this post from our favorite Anon. He goes ahead and checks it out, and let's see. Looks like it's got some extra data in it. Now, Gitmo Channel says he's found indication of F5 stego in a number of images on the boards as well. If you remember last July, there was a Photoshop pic of Sarah Silverman that alluded to using pixel knot. That's F5 stego. Point being, steganography is pretty common. Here are some more 4 and 8chan examples of seemingly normal pics blending into the thread, coded messages and conversations. You'd never know if you weren't specifically looking for it. Think data exchange. Expand your thinking. You have more than you know. So, here we go. Here's an example of an image in a post. And it says that there is some data being embedded in it. How do you hide a message in clear sight? Using JP Hide, Alpha Transparency Bits, LSB Steg. People are so quick to doubt things because they lack understanding. It's easier to believe something is false than to realize you are unaware or uninformed. Things aren't always what they seem. Another example of an image, and another example of Luke checking out to see what could be hidden inside of it and the information, the way that it's hidden. So back to the PGP key. There were some oddities. First, the file is on the large size according to a very astute colleague. At almost 10K, this is a big key file. So I went to try and locate examples of extra large key sizes and was able to find an example of a 16K key. All right, some images from Luke's research, and this is the program showing that they found something, that PGP key. Now, why would someone want such a super secret, extra secure key? Well, indulge me for a moment and assume you're a Mockingbird Media clown contractor. You need to set up secret, secure comms with an asset, source, or handler, and the bigger the key, the harder it would be to crack. The key is binary data, but that's not unexpected. It may even be further encrypted, obfuscated, or even intentionally damaged to make solving the puzzle harder. And this is just some explanations of what a PGP key is, how it's used. As I was saying about intentionally damaged, this is somewhat common in CTF capture the flag challenges involving steganography. Here's a walkthrough regarding a capture the flag where a zip file was hidden in an image, but the zip was intentionally damaged, requiring you to hex edit to fix it. I tried a small handful of things to figure out who the key belonged to and what it was securing, but I'm not a PGP expert. What next? Do I bin walk and carve out those bytes? Hex editor? I'm not 100% sure what I'm even looking for or how to check it exactly. So here are all the files I grabbed from the New York Post's own website, outputs from scans, and the PGP key pair binary extracted out of one of the Jeffrey images. Further info. I ran a number of tests with Outguess, StegHide, and a few other of steganography tools, then tested the detection and extraction of controlled files, ones I knew had data, The ones I knew didn't. Outguess would find usable bits to extract, but it would then wrongly assume it was wrong and say probably no result. However, using outguess to extract will reveal the hidden files that I knew were there, and then running file PGP key and have Linux squawk back the type. So, what's it all mean? Stego doesn't happen on accident. Someone put that PGP key in there intentionally, and someone with access to the New York Post website and CMS content management system seems like spycraft. The implication seems that Operation Mockingbird is at New York Post. I have absolutely no doubt that the Mockingbird media, part of the clown infrastructure, is definitely working at the New York Post. So guys, I'm not a PGP expert. I am not an expert on hiding this data. What I'm asking for is anyone watching my show who does understand this stuff and how to extract and maybe how to get this information, that you get a hold of Luke Slytalker on Twitter. That would be @_Luke_Slytalker. Now, on to the story about Jeffrey and the blackmail material. All right, now, Tucker Carlson says there's already hints that there are Jeffrey E. blackmail tapes. Judge Jeanine Pirro joined Tucker Carlson on Wednesday night to discuss the ongoing Jeffrey scandal. Jeffrey, the highest profile prisoner in the U.S. prison system, was found dead in his New York City prison cell back in August. Tucker said, so if the speculation is true, and Jeffrey's real business was running a blackmail scheme against the powerful, then there are likely to be tapes and implicating documents, and there's already been hints that there are tapes. Judge Jeanine said, well, you got Prince Andrew at his home with young girls coming out, and, Prince Andrew saying goodbye to him. We have it right there on tape. Now, remember, when they raided his New York apartment, or New York mansion, rather, they found many things that were assumed to be blackmail materials inside the safe. The name of a young person, along with the name of a famous person or a powerful person. Let's go ahead and watch the clip.
It's ominous. And I'd like to know, is this posturing, or do you think it's possibly true that hundreds of people could be implicated?
Oh, actually true. Let me tell you, Tucker, the stage is set. I mean, this is a drama unlike anything you've seen. Here's the bottom line. Just as you said, Virginia Roberts, Gifford now, had sued Ghislaine Maxwell for I think at the time it was for some kind of libel or slander. That lawsuit was resolved. We don't know how it worked out or what the end game was there, but there are thousands of documents that the Second Circuit Court of Appeals has said, hey, wait a minute, these documents shouldn't be sealed, and they ordered a district court judge, Loretta Preska, who is a hoot, to make sure that these documents are unsealed, because they're saying, look, the public has a right to know. The press and the print media play a very important part in notifying the public of what's going on. On the other side, you've got people who are chewing their nails, ready to jump off a bridge, because we're talking about 10,000 documents, loads of investigative forms, and people whose names are in there, not just in that black book, but in the documents. Some of them will be implicated, and Loretta Preska, the judge, has said, I will give you a chance to come in and keep your name out of things. I'll give you a chance to make an argument. But the rest of you, if your name's just in there, it's going to come out. And that's what's going on. You've got the forces of darkness and the forces of good and light who want to know all the people's names. And for some reason, even the Second Circuit said this. They said, why is this stuff being sealed? It's like everything else that happened with Jeffrey Epstein, from Alex Acosta being the United States attorney, cooking up a deal down there that was a deal of a lifetime for a perverted serial pedophile.
So if the speculation is true, and Epstein's real business was running, one of his businesses was running an elaborate blackmail scheme against the powerful, then there are likely to be tapes and implicating documents. And there's already been hints that there are tapes. Well, videotapes.
Look, I mean, you've got Prince Andrew at his home with young girls coming out, and Prince Andrew, saying goodbye to them. I think you have it right there on tape. That's, I think, Virginia Roberts, or I think it is. But what you also have are individuals who are alleged to be procurers, people who were housekeepers. There are all kinds of people who will be named in this. And as you look at the video, look at all the young girls who were going in and out of there. And I don't know if that's the one with Prince Andrew, but I don't think I see him there. But anyway, people on every side of the globe are concerned, from Israel to the UK to the United States. And there he is, Prince Andrew, and they're all very upset. And of course, Jeffrey's dead. They thought that was going to be the end of it. Yeah. Not a chance.
It'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see if it comes. My guess, it'll be squelched, but maybe I'm just too.
You heard that right. Suicide weekend. People ready to jump off bridges because their name is going to be implicated. These documents are coming out. So many rich and powerful people will be exposed. You guys, mark my words. Tucker doesn't think it's going to happen, but I think that it is too big to be ignored now. Judge Jeanine is right on the money. These people know that they are in trouble. And whether it's the U.S., whether it's Israel, whether it is in Europe, it is across the globe. No one will escape this, and there will be no deals. And finally, the attorneys for Jussie Smollett are saying that even if he faked the assault, Chicago police should not have investigated the attack so vigorously. That makes absolutely no sense. In late January, washed-up Hollywood actor Jussie Smollett faked a hate crime in an alleged beating by two white Trump supporters in freezing temperatures in Chicago at 2 a.m. in the morning. Smollett was later let off by the corrupt Cook County State's Attorney's Office after his vicious stunt to smear Trump supporters as homophobic and racists backfired. Smollett was charged with 16 counts of lying to police in his hoax hate crime in January. Smollett allegedly employed two Nigerian brothers to play the parts of the homophobic white men. The Chicago Police Department released several hours of evidence in late June, including video of the two Nigerian brothers in a taxi on their way to meet Smollett late at night in January on the night of the fake hate crime. And here we have video of it. Let's go ahead and take a look.
$9 for the bathroom.
You go more towards the light.
The light?
Yeah.
Alright.
Look the way they're covering up their faces. He's got his hoodie pulled all the way around.
Thank you. That's fine. Keep the chain. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you, my friend. Thank you for me, okay? Thanks for everything, okay? Thank you.
Oh, they shouldn't have tipped him so well. He's going to remember that one forever. I knew there was something wrong with the way they tipped me so well. Now, the Chicago police later sent actor Jussie Smollett a bill for $130,000 in March, demanding payment for their investigation of his false statements. The police letter to Jussie said the Chicago Police Department takes seriously those who make false statements to the police, thereby diverting resources from other investigations. Now, Jussie Smollett was later charged by police for faking the hate crime. The Chicago police want $130,000 from the far-left actor to pay for their investigation of that fake crime. Now, Smollett's attorneys are alleging that even if Smollett faked the hate crime, the Chicago police shouldn't have investigated the alleged crime so vigorously. The Chicago Sun-Times reported, but the latest court filing contends even if Smollett did make a false report, there is no way that the city can assert he would have known the city would investigate, and investigate it to the extent cops did. We contend the city is wrong, Quinlan said of the city's assertion that Smollett should have known the police would log nearly 2,000 hours in overtime trying to resolve the case. The mere fact that somebody filed a police report doesn't presume the investigation will be done, and certainly not to the extent of what the city is claiming. He added, Smollett has no control over that. In a legal brief obtained by Snead, Smollett makes clear that he disputes any and all assertions that he made a false statement and was not a victim of a crime. But even if he did, the filing of a police report in and of itself does not necessitate a sprawling investigation, nor does it, as a practical matter, usually result in an investigation as extensive as the one the CPD chose to undertake in this case, the motion says. It goes on to say the city has failed to allege that Mr. Smollett was similarly well aware that his statements by police would result in 1,836 hours of police overtime, or any other reasons why he should have known that this would have been the case. Last month, U.S. District Judge Virginia Kendall, who is hearing the case, said she will rule in October whether the city could move forward with its lawsuit to redeem the costs. Now, let's just be real for a second. You've got an alleged hate crime taking place in Chicago against somebody who's fairly famous, somebody who has a nationally syndicated television program on the Fox television network. Of course the police are going to investigate it. Of course they are going to make sure they do everything, because the way that this guy did it, he started an outrage mob. He got people in Hollywood, people in Washington calling out, saying that the Chicago police needed to do everything they could to find the people responsible, because at that time, everyone thought that they were two men of European descent, we'll say. It's absolutely ridiculous that Smollet's lawyers would be trying to claim that just because he reported a hate crime, that they, maybe might not have actually investigated it. Of course they're going to investigate it when it includes a celebrity of this magnitude and somebody who's out there working with people like Kamala Harris, people like Cory Booker, building that outrage mob and trying to impugn the characters of God-loving Trump supporters. Juicy, you are about to be stuck with a $130,000 bill. The city is going to continue their lawsuit against you, and I think that the special prosecutor that has been appointed in this case is going to eventually bring charges against you for the fake crime that you committed. You cannot simply pretend to be assaulted by a couple of Trump supporters and assume that you're going to be able to get away with it. This is the kind of thing that is making people like me very upset because it happens all the time. It is completely fake. It makes it look a lot worse, and it makes it more difficult to investigate when there are actual hate crimes that take place. Not even saying that it happens as often as they like to think that it does, but it's been proven time and time again that people like Juicy Smollett are willing to fake these crimes because they simply want to make people who love Trump and who love God and who love America look bad. Well, guys, I think that's all that I have for you today. I want to thank everyone for joining me. As always, this has been Red Pill 78. I am the Corruption Detector, and this was your Red Pill News. Good luck, everyone, and God bless.